When Insight first formed, the first neighborhood that we thought of working with was Sherman Park. And we went to the executive director at Sherman Park and he said, "We would love to work with you, except we have no money." So the reason why this project was possible is that we got funding through the Wisconsin Arts Board. And I'm going to go through the funding for the project because it's really important. So the funding for Vibrancy, which is what we call the collaborative project between Insight and Sherman Park Community Association, is made possible by a matching grant from the Wisconsin Arts Board with funds from the Challenge America program of the National Endowment for the Arts. The money from the Wisconsin Arts Board is supported in part by funds from the state of Wisconsin, and it's matched with funding through Sherman Park Community Association's involvement in the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative, sponsored by the Greater Milwaukee Foundation. And then someone from Sherman Park even came forward and provided funding for Carrie Enott's trash can project in Sherman Park. And the parks, the Milwaukee County parks, were astounding for this project. The staff said, "We want art in the parks." And so they've been encouraging of this project and for future projects.
When Insight first approached me to do a public art piece here in the Sherman Park neighborhood, I was really enthusiastic because I'm really critical of public art, and of course, if you're critical of something, then you can find creative solutions to innovate it. I wanted to make a work of art that functioned in the community, and it functioned on a variety of different levels in an art context and in a social context. A big part of my practice is kind of platforming other artists' work and working in a community, like a collaborative and community environment, creating context for work and creating, function for contemporary art. So by creating an object that has actual literal function, dispensing function and displaying function and distributing function, I hoped to kind of activate the community and also celebrate perspectives in Milwaukee and Milwaukee artists in as productive a way as possible. I feel really lucky to be able to work with a really wide range of Milwaukee artists, from internationally renowned to local middle school students. I value elements of all their of the whole spectrum of their work, and I wanted to celebrate that value system that you can find in the whole gambit of art on different levels. It was important for me to engage not only artists who work at these different levels, but art enthusiasts who kind of have different approaches or different interpretations of art in their own ways. My large interest is the commercial contemporary art world, and this is a critique and an experiment on different elements of that, as well as an attempt to celebrate the Milwaukee art community and also to kind of expand it. So we're focusing on Sherman Park neighborhood, but we're also expanding through the format of public sculpture and interactive commercial commentary, and also communication, postal, mailing art through the postal service. So when you see a work of public art, it's often like a static object that you might have an internal interaction with, but you don't necessarily get to have a physical interaction with, or be able to kind of affect it in some way or participate in it in some way. So this kind of functions as like a sculptural object, as like a vintage vending machine, and then it also functions as like a gallery of sorts, kind of showcasing all these local artists. And then it also functions as, by having people, inviting people to put a quarter in the machine and be able to have a piece of the public work, they're kind of instead of just having like a bunch of postcards or paintings out on a table and say, you know, like free art, it's like it's a language that we're all trained and familiar with, where you know, you put down, it's like a gesture, you put down some money and then you get to become a part of it, or you kind of have ownership of it. Because they're not just little framed pieces of artwork, they're postcards which have like a, you know, a very specific intent is to encourage people to continue that process and take the public art from its location here at like a coffee shop or wherever it might be in a park, and continue that exposure by putting it out into the world. So we're dealing with like 16 different artists, their perspective of the city of Milwaukee. So we're taking, you know, these different locations in the city, we're bringing them to one location, and then we're sending them back out. There are still this characteristics of fine art, actually the funding for fine art being very extreme, like kind of shifting to the extreme, like private elite sector, where you can't have access to the same, like mass audiences can't have access to the same artists as private collectors. And for me, like some of these artists are working in like a contemporary international art world, and a lot of the impulses and a lot of the characteristics that drive that economy are very similar to the personal tastes and little like very subtle I guess just personalities of the individuals there, and that works like on the same level here. I think that's kind of, in my work, that's important, that people can have access to art in different ways, and I'm like very open to that. And I try to structure my work so that a wide variety of people can appreciate it. Maybe not for the same thing, but appreciate with a similar sentiment. So.
For Insight, this is the most involved neighborhood project that we've had because of the nature of Sherman Park Community Association, where those folks really wanted to engage in dialogue with the artists. And through the task force, we had this way to have ongoing meetings. And then we were really lucky because Madison artist Melanie Keyhouse came forward with the project for our community involvement project that allowed for us to have, again, access to all sorts of homeowners in the neighborhood, where they made their homes available to her for taking pictures, and then where there were people from the community who came to spray in the park, to help put the stencils in the park. And so there really was a way in which so many people from Insight were involved with Sherman Park, and where there's this real understanding of the neighborhood really wanting art here, and where we were, as Insight works, we were invited in. We weren't imposing this art on the neighborhood. We were invited in. We had conversations with folks. There was understanding of what public art can be.
My name is Melanie Keyhouse. My project involved going around to homes in the Sherman Park neighborhood and taking pictures and making drawings of elements of the architecture here. Most of the homes I looked at were bungalows because that's the primary style of the homes in this area, but I did also look at places like the Schrager Auction Gallery, which is a neoclassical style. Well, Insight has been great in terms of hooking me up with neighborhood residents who are interested in art and architecture, and also with MyAd students who are obviously interested in art and public art particularly. So I had a great team of about 7 people. We actually did have one 11-year-old neighborhood member, I think she was 11, who was a great help too. She took a lot of the pictures and helped spray paint as well.
And so it created this wonderful relationship of what Insight's all about, of ongoing art with neighborhoods where the art is public. The public was so strongly involved in this art, and so it's just been great to see it come forward, and where we'll be continuing again in the fall of 2008 with the second cycle of art here.